Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Trix, and in today's video I'm not going to be on camera because it's because of two reasons. The first reason is because this is too hard of a topic to talk about showing my face. I will just cry. And the second is because I want to continue with this series of while drawing, which is a series where I'm making art and discussing things. So this is a little comeback to this series. So today's topic is trauma and trauma healing, because it's that time of the year when my body remembers the abuse I went through in 2020. And I remember it, or my body rather, first of all, remember it before my mind does. And I want to talk about how trauma really works, because it feels like most people out there don't know much about trauma. They think we just thinking about what we have been through, when it actually is more about the nervous system and that trauma is in the body. And I want to educate a little bit in this episode of what trauma is and why it's not just about obsessing over something or thinking about something. So now I want to talk a little bit about what happened in 2020. And here I want to put a trigger warning or a content warning. I will talk a little bit about sexual assault, and if that's something you don't want to listen to, then I suggest you skip most part of. I can put a timestamp on the video where you can go directly to the advice instead, for advice for people who dealing with people with trauma. In 2020, right before the pandemic hit Sweden, I was assaulted on a date. It was a guy who I met on a dating app, and we were planning on having a date, and I ended up being raped by him, even though I said no and did try to leave. But he didn't care at all about me trying to leave. He just forced me to stay and forced me to do things I didn't want to. He also had a weapon which he used against me, and it was quite violent. Not all rape and assaults are violent, and they are still wrong, but in my case it was very violent. It was very obvious that I didn't want to be there and that I didn't want to do the things, and it was obvious that he was a bad person that knew that I didn't want this, because he told me to shut up and he hit me and he forced me, and it was a very, very violent crime. A few days after this happened to me, I reported it to the police, and I was sent to the hospital to see if I had any internal wounds and injuries, which I had. I won't go into details about that, but I had injuries from this assault. And they also gathered some evidence on the hospital, and I went back to the police a few days later, and they investigated this crime, but unfortunately nothing really happened to the man who did this to me, because I don't know, nothing happened. I don't know why, actually. I have probably forgot a lot about it to survive this, but yeah, it's hard knowing that this man is a free man despite what he had done to me. To cope with the trauma, I started to harm myself by binge eating a lot, so I gained a lot of weight, and that's also the reason why I don't discuss my weight and the fact that I'm overweight on this channel, and I delete all comments about my weight because it's hard, because I was smaller or like more in shape when this happened, but after this abuse I have gained a lot of weight, and it's hard. It's just very hard. I harm myself in that way, but I have gotten better at I have started to become more healthy again, but it's still a work in progress. Here I want to talk about what trauma really is, because people say don't think about it, just don't think about it, but that's really not how trauma works, because the body remembers. That's why trauma-informed care often involves somatic therapy, trauma therapy with somatic, like EMDR and other techniques are somatic, because it's in the nervous system. It's not just about thoughts. It's just not. It's not just about thinking about the experience, because sometimes it's actually hard to remember the experience when you have trauma. But you get flashbacks or nightmares. You can have different triggers that makes you remember things, and then you can dissociate because of these triggers. And it also can result in memory loss and in having a bad memory in your day-to-day life. So it's a struggle. It's not just about repeating memories that shows up all the time, and I obsess over things. It's not just about that. That's not what trauma is. Not always what trauma is. It's more of a struggle than that. It's more debilitating than people think. Now I want to talk about my triggers and also touch a little bit about dissociation. I have talked about in previous episodes of this series that I have dissociative identity disorder, and that is also due to childhood trauma, and I have multiple alters or personalities, as people called it before. It's an old term of that phenomena, but I have many alters that are like personalities because of my childhood trauma. And what people don't realize is that when you go through trauma in adulthood as well, or adolescence, you can develop even more alters. So I have developed one more alter after what happened 2020, even though I was an adult. So you don't just develop these alters when you are a kid. You can do that due to trauma even when you are an adult. So that happened to me in 2020, and I have 2 more alters because of that. I have one because of that experience, and one because of the police report didn't go as well as I had thought it would. So I developed trauma because of the police as well. And it's hard. It's really hard to cope with this. I also have a lot more trouble with memory than I had before this happened. Of course, I had trauma in childhood and I had trauma in my adolescence, but this 2020 trauma made it so my memory, my short-term memory was gotten so bad. I actually have what's it's called in English? I think it's called helping aids, or I don't know. I have like gotten aids that helps me out in my day-to-day life to remember things, like a little recorder so I can record things, because I even forgot to write things up, and with which they have provided me with from the psychiatric center, because I it's so bad, my memory. And also it's mostly the short-term memory. I remember most things from a couple of years ago, but when it comes to meetings and appointments and even seeing friends that I like to see, it's horrible. I forget everything, and it's due to my trauma, and also my arthritis was developed due to extreme stress, psychological stress in my body. So the doctors think that my arthritis I had probably gotten it some time in my life, but if it wasn't for this trauma, I would have developed it when I was older. So even the arthritis was coming this early of an age because of my trauma. It has been very hard to record this video or record this voiceover for this video, but now it's the final part, and I think that's easier to record, and that is I want to give some advice how to deal with people who has trauma, and what you can do as someone, if you have someone in your life that has trauma, and how some advice to others, how to cope with a friend or family member who has trauma. So last portion of this video will be just about that, about the advice. The first bit of advice I would give to support someone with trauma is to listen to them without judging. And as we previously discussed, it doesn't help to say don't think about it, or think about something else, or just forget about it. That's not helpful in the moment. So I would advise to just listen and ask them if they need something, and let them tell what they need. If the person gets a flashback or dissociate and they no longer remember who you are, or seems to be like they are somewhere completely else, then it might be that they are in a flashback and re-experiencing the trauma again. And then it's important to just stay calm, and to maybe you need to tell your name and who you are and what relation you have to the person, and remember to stay calm. I know it's easier said than done, but say your name, say who you are, what relationship you have with the person, and stay grounded, and tell the person to breathe, and say that nothing bad will happen because you are, and fill in the blank who you are. And just stay calm and wait until the dissociative episode is over. That's my advice. It helps me when people tell me who they are when I am dissociative. But of course, it can be very different from person to person, but generally, just stay calm. Don't freak out. That just makes it worse. Or don't shake the person, because that will just make it worse. Don't shake them to wake them up, because don't do that. It will just make it worse. Stay calm. Don't touch them if it doesn't feel like they are in the room with you. Another thing I have thought about is sometimes you need to leave out your opinion and just validate the person. Even if it's the 1,000th time they have mentioned the trauma and you gets annoyed, if you can't really handle it, then you might want to refer the person to someone else. Help them to find someone else to talk to, either a mental health professional, or if it's just another friend, if you don't feel like you can take it, because it's much better to refer them to someone else if you can't take it than to say something insensitive, if you know what I mean. Trauma isn't always rational or logical, and I don't think it's helpful to try to make sense of the situation always. I think it's better to just validate the person. That's my last bit of advice. Now we have come to the end of this video. I hope you find it useful or helpful and informative. And this was it for this episode. I want to say that this series where I'm drawing will not replace my main content or my regular content, but it will be something I do from time to time on this channel. So thank you for watching, and I see you in my next video. Bye!